Good day. This is Tim Bowes and my wife, Beth. And she's helped me out today as a fellow educator, teaching colleague, and major influence on myself and her own district in response to a prompt for the class I'm taking about revitalization for an experienced educator. And the class has a module on taking a look at elements about teachers suffering from so-called burnout and demoralization. And so Beth has read the article that I read as well, that I was assigned, and we need to kind of talk about it a little bit together and go over a couple things from our different perspectives. Just a quick note, the reviewer of this, the instructor, I have been teaching for, well, this will be my 20th year in this district. I've taught for 7 years beyond that, and veteran of the U.S. Navy and whatever else, politically active. So that's a little bit on me. You've read a lot of that good stuff. My wife is going into, what, your 7th year in the same district?
My 8th year in the same district,
Okay.
and I've been teaching for 18 years, and prior to that I had a social worker. I was in the nonprofit public sector.
Yeah, so we've got a variety of experience that way, and so there's that. I'm going to start off with, honey, what did you think of the concept burnout and demoralization when you read this?
I really liked the way it made me think differently about the demoralization. You hear it, I'm a special ed teacher, so you hear a lot about, oh, they have burnout or they have that. But I do think this article brings up a really good point about how it's maybe not the actual job itself or the person itself, it's maybe how things are set in place for that person to be successful, especially in the classroom. And like I said, I'm a special ed teacher, so I know that there's a lot of different paperwork qualifications and other things that can so-called burn people out. But I really like the way this article said it really has to come up from the administration and the principals and the school as a whole to make sure that they're providing the structure and the positive support systems so that it can help maybe and effectively help teachers overall teach and not have that burnout feeling.
Yeah. One of the things my wife and I have seen the connection on over the years as far as professional goes, she has to deal with writing all the 504s and IEPs and that kind of stuff for special needs students. As a gen ed instructor, I end up dealing with trying to interpret and infer, what I need to do with those students in a regular ed classroom and stuff. So we've had to share a thought on it. We both agreed, as a general ed instructor, we're never given enough time to sit down with our special education colleagues and go over how we should make adjustments in class, whether it's modifying a test or approaching something in class, things of that nature. So even though we're not in the same building or same district right now, we have both witnessed that where we've been working and stuff. So fair enough?
Yeah.
Cool. So let me just say this, I'm going right through the article and wanted to cover a few points. How do you deal with or see the direction of public education? We talk about this a lot. We're not exactly big fans of Betsy DeVos or the person who put her in control of things. The conservative movement in America today, testing, standardization, stripping of teacher rights. We saw it in our neighbor state where we're both from, Wisconsin, and what happened there, and in Ohio and other states as well. I don't know. What do you want to say about that before I go off on a rant?
I guess standardized testing, I understand there has to be some standards so that people can compare how they're doing across the board, whether it's from Minnesota, whether it's individual district incentives or the whole state where they want their graduates to be at. But with special ed education, I've had a real hard time with that because my kids who are considered having disabilities, who are supposed to have modifications in the classroom, are supposed to have all these things take place because to make sure that they are learning like their regular education peers, they are forced to take these tests. And just because they get extended time or a quiet environment, they're supposed to automatically be where their other peers are at. And these kids have been receiving special education since first grade. It's not fair, it's not even realistic, and it's actually, I think it's really sad that we set our kids up like that. And the other thing is just stripping of teacher rights and union. I think right now there still tends to be a lot that the teachers get everything and that we're doing all of this stuff, and so they're trying to take it away from us. What they don't realize is that unions actually fight for the kids in the classroom to make sure that there are enough para support, or there is enough support in the classroom. There is enough. You do have books that you're not teaching to kids, 40 kids in a classroom. We try to fight for a lot of different rights, and I think that gets overlooked by our society. And in certain states, our state of Minnesota is very good at not being the case.
Well, so far.
So far.
We're well aware of the pressures out there. But those 2 points that I wanted to just build off of with not just special education, but as a gen ed instructor as well, whether it's requiring students to take the ACT, which is actually a good test, but requiring everybody to take it, or our annual MCAs. I've never been a big fan of those, especially the writing test and the structure of those, the standardized aspects. And from a special education perspective, Beth highlights, of course, how unfair that is at times with the timing, the methodology, the expectations on the kids, how it gets included into overall school scores, and then that's a reflection on the educators as if we're not doing something right and that kind of thing. And the gen ed, we look at it and we can opt our parents have the right to opt their kids out of certain tests, the MCAs and others. And I don't know, I get sick and tired of the standardized test all the time, when I would just as soon write letters of analysis on how a student's doing or where they should go year to year from every class. Even though I've got 125 to 150 kids a day, I'd rather do something than that than the standardized perspective that I have. And yes, we're both well aware of the good fortune we have in the state of Minnesota that we've not run into the conservative movement that struck Wisconsin yet. And we're really hopeful, and we'll make sure we do everything that we don't as well. But we should move on. What have you found, if anything, in the now 8 years going into your current school? What have you found, anything that's remoralizing? I think that's an interesting term. Uplifting, or something that's within the school and society that's good about teaching, and that kind of keeps us going year to year. We have to look at things to kind of keep us inspired. So this remoralization.
Well, getting back to the very beginning, where it's a demoralization or teacher burnout, and how schools can help teachers regenerate, feel good about what they're doing. My school's smaller. We have instituted, a lot of schools have instituted PLC programming, but we have an hour off early every Wednesday. I shouldn't say we have it off, the kids have it off. We have a PLC community. At first it was led by my principal. It is no longer led by my principal. It's truly collaborating with your fellow teachers. It's been a huge success. In neighboring schools, they do not do this model, and I was just at a conference where, of course, that's kind of negative. We all want to practice our craft. We want to talk to our teachers, and that's how we become better teachers and better learners. And I feel very fortunate that my schools recognize that, and so that has helped. I really feel like that's really helped. Even teachers who've been there for 35 years agree. They feel like that has really helped them as a person working in that building and helping kids.
Well, and you know how frustrated I've been over the past few years with the lack of, with the low morale in our building and stuff. And part of it's because we don't have that type of opportunity for substantive PLCing or even any kind of faculty fun get-together kind of stuff. And it sounds like, I know that in her district they actually are small enough where they still have annual holiday get-togethers and before school and after school events and that kind of stuff. And those play into it heavily as far as the keeping people unified